Hey, what's up, La Familia, you crazy football-loving nutters? This is Ray Hudson, and you are luxuriating in listening to the Inter Miami podcast with the stupefyingly magnificent Jay and Alex, two lads who are as electrifying as a hairdryer thrown into a hot tub. Stay tuned, because you know what it's going to be. It's going to be magisterial with an amplifier.
To the left, Pellegrini, inside, Pizarro Golazo, here's the goal scorer, Morgan, and he's done it again! Lewis Morgan with a second of the match! Higuain will have the goal! He's framed the top 90! It's a sensational first goal for Gonzalo Higuain!
I got to say, that was a pretty solid 24 hours while it lasted, being fifth in the East and in the playoffs.
All right.
Yeah, buddy. It was a rude awakening, but we are going to get into all of the exposure of this club on, what was that, Friday? I don't know. I think we drank to forget after that, buddy. But welcome, everyone, to the Inter Miami podcast. I'm Jay Kington, alongside, as always, Alex Papa George. How are you doing today, bud?
I'm doing fantastic.
I don't really care. Let's keep it moving. Just kidding. How you doing, buddy?
The balls you have, dude. The balls you have. I don't see you in a few weeks, and you just seem to drop.
We got to find the ways to bring smiles to our face, because it certainly wasn't that performance.
It was not that performance, but damn, we did have a pretty good time at the game, as we always do.
We did until we didn't. Until like 70th minute, we were like, oh man, like, is there any good going to come from this, or is this just going to be a thrashing?
Well, we talked about it, and it seems like every time we bring a compadre to one of these games that hasn't yet been, we seem to just not even show up for the match.
I know that we were like discussing that. I'm done bringing outsiders because it's an embarrassing show. And even like Than was like, well, I'm a friend. I'm like, you're a colleague. I mean, and a friend, but like you're involved. So like you don't have the curse.
Our record this year is 0-5.
With bringing outsiders?
Bringing outsiders.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense as we try and grow this. And as the club tried to grow it too, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but they were offering additional tickets to hype it up, only for that to occur.
You know, and I appreciate the gesture. I do appreciate the gesture. But you know what? One thing, you know, box office peoples, if you're going to give us free tickets, like hopefully we're sitting next to the other person, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can't have us on two separate sides of the stadium because, you know, I'm like, later, dude, I'll see you after the game.
Right. So I am the official season ticket holder for both of Alex and I. And what I mean by that is like, it's my email that is linked when I originally made the purchase. So I get the emails. And one of the questions was, you know, where are your seats? And it's not, you know, what section are your seats in. It's are they in the east, the west, the north, or the south stands? So we're in the west stand. So I enter west. Where did they give us the tickets? On the east. I'm like, man, you guys are making it rough. But, you know, I mean, wink, wink. It's fairly easy to move around that stadium and find seats all together. So wasn't too much of an issue.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
I don't know either. Decipher that as you will.
Yes. And, you know, maybe buy some rafter tickets and, you know, maybe you can find yourself field side. You know, you never know. You never know.
You never know.
And you know what we do know, though, Jay, is we got 10 games remaining on this season. And that does not include if we ever do put back that match that was canceled a few months ago. I know you love talking about it.
No, it's on there. It's going to be October 3rd.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's coming soon.
So that is part of the 10 games.
Or sorry, October 9th. The 3rd is what we're really excited about for probably masochist reasons with the Portland game.
That is a landmine that I think we're just about to walk into. But we have a few potential landmines that we're going to try and avoid over the next few weeks before we get to that one over in Portland.
It's funny how your confidence can get shaken in just one game, because we were like hype, like, oh, you know, 10 out of 14 opponents of our remaining opponents at that point in time were below the playoff line. But oh, that was a brutal showing on Friday against the Red Bulls.
Well, listen, sir, I think that, you know, we were talking about that easy stretch of games for a while. And of course, we're talking about our matches against the Chicago Fire, then into Toronto, then we tied Orlando City, moving into Cincinnati, the Columbus Crew in Toronto. And that's really where our easy stretch ended. And to be honest, we actually performed pretty damn well over that course of games. You know, we did pull out 4 wins and 1 tie over the course of those 6 matches, which is pretty impressive. But that came to a screeching halt, my friend, against the Red Bulls.
It really did. And it was funny because in the press conference, someone was asking Phil, like, does the inconsistency bother him? And he's like, inconsistency? Like, I think you and I have a different definition of inconsistency. We've won the last 6 games. And I was like, like head turned sideways. I was like, maybe Phil and I have a different view on the word win, because we have not won. We drew against Orlando, but yeah, a pretty good unbeaten spell there. I think it was 1 loss in like 11 games or something like that. So it was very good, but now we're 2 loss, and we did have a 3-game winning streak, but hey, that just sets us up for another winning streak.
You're right. Like, hey, listen, the beginning of the season, I don't even think we had a winning streak to our name, you know, not unbeaten, but actual winning streak. So, hey, let's look at the positives here and these milestones we're tackling.
Well, another positive that I'm extremely happy about is the fact that David Beckham and Jorge Mas and his brother, Jose Mas, have doubled down and on their ownership and decided finally to buy out Marcelo Claure and Masayoshi Son, while also adding Aries Management as a quote-unquote preferred equity investor. I know you're all smart with that. Do you know exactly what preferred equity investor entails?
To my understanding right now, they're either already a partner or a silent investor in this equation, or if they do, that is the Moss brothers and David Beckham decide to reopen, you know, equity potential agreements with outside participants. This would be their preferred alternative and next in line to the management group of Inter Miami.
No way of validating that right now, but it sounds good to me. So we're just going to accept that answer as fact here.
And you know what I love about this, dude, is I actually went down to the Canes game this last weekend. And boy, if you're going any more of those, just sell your tickets now.
Losses all around Miami.
South Florida.
Around. Even up to Florida State. We're going the whole state. Even UCF got beat by Louisville. Shout out the Cardinals. You know, I love you.
Listen, we're in a pure downward spiral right now. You know, we're talking about Florida teams. We got to loop in the Miami Dolphins, too, with that.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. What is that? 35-0?
35-0.
The whole state's just sinking into the ocean, literally and figuratively.
Like what you did right there. I don't think I told you this, but the defensive line coach for the Miami Dolphins just moved in next door.
Oh, how does that affect us?
Well, clearly not that well.
Here's this name you just dropped.
Do you have any butter?
No,
but listen, you know, over this weekend, I went to the Canes game and afterwards had to blow off a little bit of steam. So I headed over the Hard Rock, right? You know,
we're 2 days of having to blow off steam.
You
went to that game to blow off steam from Friday night.
You're right. And this was a little bit of a bender of a weekend as you're putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
So headed over to the Hard Rock, played some blackjack, actually came out with about plus 120, which I was pretty happy about. But you know what we learned there is how you double down on your investment if you believe in it. And that is what David Beckham and the Moss brothers are doing. So I love this. There's got to be some type of confidence if they've been behind the scenes and, being the puppeteer and being like, hey, I'm going to double down on this. So we'll see how it happens.
And someone, I forgot who it was, but one of our listeners commented on our post and was like, I'm really interested in your guys' take on this. And I was just like, snitches get stitches, dude. Like, I'm a screw Claure. I think everyone knows how I feel about this whole situation. If you do listen to this podcast, you snitched on your club. We would have been fine last year. I'm not saying it's right, but it's definitely not right to snitch. And I think there's some of this egotistical, like I wanted more say or be more involved in the decision processes, whatever it is. Like, I'm good riddance. I'm happy.
I agree. This is one of those like relationships, right? Like if if your girl cheats on you, right? And it's like, oh, like my bad, it'll never happen again. You're like, but you're a witch.
That's an interesting analogy there, but okay.
Took myself back to 22 years old, freshly out of college, and we all have a story.
We have some other good news, some first ever in the club history, and that's not about just being in the official playoff, above the playoff line for a solid 24 hours, but we finally have a kit sponsor. It only took only took over a year and a half, probably 2 years if you go back to the beginning. You know, not like Austin had Getty as their sponsor like 6 months before they played. But hey, better late than never. They're on island time down here, so it's all right. And something we're kind of fond of. It is XBTO, which is a crypto financial institution. I believe they have exchange, but it looks like it almost operates as, it looks like a hedge fund. I've got to look more into it. Some people did complain that, you know, it wasn't one of the cryptocurrencies like they preferred, or they weren't fond of the cryptocurrency world in general, or they didn't like the way it looked on the shirt. But whatever, crypto's the future. Get on with it or get left behind. We're very, very pleased with that.
I think we're partial to thank for this sponsor, to be honest.
That's got to be it. I'm sure the international firm that moved their headquarters to Miami was swayed by the Inter Miami podcast in these two dudes.
Yeah, I'll be honest, didn't know a thing about XBTO group.
Join the club.
Did not know anything, and I think I'm in the party of just not loving the way that it looks on the actual kit, but that's just my personal preference. Curious to hear yours, but this crypto stuff, man, it's taking over South Florida, Miami in general. Miami very well might be the capital of crypto, at least in the U.S., but potentially the world here coming up pretty soon, man.
They're certainly trying in Miami to make it the capital of the United States, but there never will be El Salvador, which has like National Bitcoin Day and has fully embraced everything.
Listen, man,
and Congress is going to tax the hell out of us.
Miami Coin, just released a few weeks ago. Mayor Suarez put that into existence. Netflix had one hell of a show called Startup that I know you turned me on to. And if you like crypto game, go ahead and watch that. About 3 seasons of fire. They're coming out with a 4th season. It is called Startup. And, in general, Miami Beach has just turned into Silicon Beach.
I mean, if you're going to be a degen and get rich real fast off crypto, Miami is definitely one of the top 5 cities in the world that you'd want to live in.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this XBTO
bar, maybe Ibiza.
Company, yeah, almost. But this company, man, I mean, they've raised over like $200 million over the course of this year. So they are doing big things, just like most crypto. And I'm happy with the choice of crypto. Don't know what XBTO is, and I think that they can work on the actual presentation of the sponsor on the kit. But I am happy with the sponsor.
I'm happy with it, but I'm not. The club is doing, I doubt it's free, but where you could go and get the kit sponsor added on to your jerseys, because for the past year and a half, 2 years, we've been playing with sponsorless kits. I'm more in the camp of, no, I'm good with my sponsorless kit because it shows my OG-ness.
Well, there you go. I mean, if you want to be a true OG, don't get the sponsor on there, or just put on one of your own, dude.
Cafe Bustelo.
Yeah, we're still a big supporter of Cafe Bustelo. We'll see how this, XBTO goes. There are a lot of sanctions. It could be out of business tomorrow. We don't know, but Cafe Bustelo will be around.
It legit could be out of business
These
tomorrow.
could just be a couple to 16-year-olds, planted in New York City,
there we go.
With a little bit of a trust fund behind them.
It's a 4-year deal. So, if you don't like it, just suck it up for 4 years and hope that they get, I don't know, Publix or City Furniture or something like that.
Yeah, one of those local brands, something. But anyway, we did have football, fortunately and not fortunately more recently. But as we were touching on, we had been on a bit of a run, and we shouldn't overlook that, although we did have a little bit of a hiccup this last match against the Red Bulls. Yeah, by little, I mean that hiccup came by the result of 4-0. And that is that might be just like the hiccups, where's this?
Bro, that's like full on choking and no one's there to give you the Heimlich, and your whole body is blue and you're probably passing on to the next life.
Oh man. But in our last 12 games, we have won 7. We've tied 3. We've lost 2 for a total of 24 points. In a more of a hyper-focused lens, we can look at the last 5 matches where we've won 3, tied 1, lost 1 for a total of 10 points. Now, looking at this at a little bit more of a 20,000-foot view down on our season, we have played 24 matches this year, and with a record of 9 wins, 10 losses, 4 ties, 432 points. Now, as we look at these numbers and a little bit more of that second level data, let's keep in mind we have 24 points in our last 12 matches, yet we've played 24 matches this year. Yes, that means that we only have 8 points in the entire first half of the season. 12 matches, 8 points. Yikes.
That's a solid breakdown right there. I'm not going to lie. That's a lot of numbers. I was trying to keep track of that, but you know what? It doesn't matter what you did. It's what you done, what you're doing right now, rather. And we're on the right track. There's no lie. The first half of the season was one of the brutal things that tested the true fandom of a lot of people. And a lot of people did make it through. We lost some soldiers along the way, but you know what? It's all right. This game is not for the faint of heart. We have seemingly turned the season around with the removal of the memory of Friday night and this 4-0 beatdown. But that's what you want to see. And I think it was something they said, like we had a 6-point week, right? We had 3 games in 1 week. And obviously we lost one last night, but that's still not bad. We do have to remain grounded. Yes, losses suck. They suck even more when you've been on an unbeaten streak like that and then a 3-game winning streak. Yes, but let's not forget that we've been doing the best we can to pull it out with a fairly depleted squad. And, there's been some struggles in the past few games. No lie. No lie about it. And a lot of people are bringing into conversation the level of competition of those games. It's not our fault that we get scheduled some of the lower teams as far as the Cincinnati, the Columbus, and the Toronto game go. Very ugly performances that we seemingly had to find a way to grind out the win, and a lot of times that came at the very end of the game.
Listen, I'd rather be hot the second half of the season than be hot the first half of the season, right?
Yes.
And I think a pure example is, look no further than the Columbus Crew, right? They came out of the gates. They won the cup last year, and now they're stumbling all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. And, I think this is a kind of a common message that we talk about each and every podcast, and kind of reverting back to the original or the earlier parts of this year, right? And I'm looking through our schedule in the preliminary months and looking at that LA Galaxy, 2-3 loss that we gave at the final minutes, probably the last 10 minutes of that. That was our season opener down here in Fort Lauderdale. And looking at that loss that we took against the Chicago Fire back on May 22nd. And, these are losses that, in the moment may not look like big things, but when we kind of fast forward 5-6 months down the road and we look back at where we've stumbled, these are the points that we can pick out where we've lost points.
I agree. I view it the same way I view the NCAA March Madness basketball tournament. I don't even know if we can say March Madness without getting sued, but whatever, come after us. It's about hitting your stride, right? You want to get in a streaky form to run through that. And I think that's what we're doing right now, although we've been struggling recently, but we need to continue to improve. Prime example is Atlanta. Look at Atlanta just coming on super strong midseason, and they look like no one's going to slow them down. I mean, that's what we want to see. So we have plenty of time to brush ourselves off, get back out there and get some W's, although it's not going to be easy over these next few games.
It's not. And I guess to kind of wrap this up, this back half, these 12 games that we've most recently won, we've had 3 times the amount of points than our first 12 games. And those are big, big numbers. So, as we continue to move forward as a franchise and as a club, it's not just about this year, it's about next year and the following years, and, developing our academies and looking at this as more of a holistic view. This is something that we've talked about, and it's consistency. And good teams are consistent. So, we did have 3 games, to cover on since the last time we jumped on the podcast. So wanted to touch about each one of these pretty quick.
We do have 3 games to cover, and we're going to do this fairly brief so this doesn't get super long-winded. But first off, we get the win against Columbus, who are the reigning MLS Cup champion. Sounds great, right? But honestly, it seems like they're playing like we were at the beginning of the season. This is a struggling team. This is the game where Gonzalo Higuain was able to chip the keeper off a really horrible back pass to the goalie from their left mid or center back. I can't remember exactly which one it was. Horrible play. We were able to capitalize on it, get the result, and then you move on to the Toronto game. Another overall, I'd say, lackluster team performance, but we were able to have McCoon be like, yeah, I'm going to put the team on my back, run up there, get into the box, and beautiful combination play, gets down, gets up, pushes Morgan aside, says, this is my penalty, I'm taking it, hits him with a little Bruno Fernandes, hop, skip, rip into the bottom right corner for a win. But again, a very lackluster overall team performance. And even going back one game before the Columbus one with the Cincinnati, there's nothing that's been really exciting. We're just finding ways to really grind out these games. And that left us a little concerned that a team could come along and really expose us, especially after having so many games in a short period of time. I mean, we're literally talking, 4 games in 13 days, basically. And it was insane. And that's what happens when you are a little fatigued, when you're a little tired, when you're mentally drained, is you can get absolutely sliced up from a surgical precision like New York did, and kind of, ruin our experience of bringing our buddy to the stadium.
Yes, let alone another time a first experience is ruined. But, listen, man, I think we had this one coming a little bit here. I think that we were playing with fire and we got burned a bit. And, the Gonzalo play, the only goal in the Columbus match, Macoun scoring an extra time off of a penalty kick that was a foul that had no chance of us actually being in an offensive attacking position, just kind of, I guess, happened to fall the way that we want it to fall. But that came to a close this last Friday night against the Red Bulls. So, I think we had it come in a little bit. And the important part is how we jump back on that rocket ship and get back up to the moon for us crypto fans.
So you want some silver lining here. The last time I brought an outsider buddy was the 5-0 beatdown from the Revs. What happened after that? Hey, we go on our streaky form. So let's just put that energy out there into the metaverse. Oh man, this is deep with crypto. Let's just put that energy out there. We're about to turn around. We're about to go on a 10-game win streak. I'm calling it now, bud.
The metaverse, man, we have totally lost our minds. Yeah. Really, there's going to be 2% of people know what the hell we're talking about. Everybody else is going to be like, Jesus, get these guys off the mic.
It really was. It really was. But again, here's the thing, too. We've been playing with a fairly depleted squad. So the next game could get a little tricky as well. But we're going to move on. We're going to pick ourselves up. We're going to move on, man. That's just all you can do. It seems like it was only a matter of time before the teams catch on to our 3-4-3 rather, or our 5-2-3, however you want to do this. We can even do 5-2-2-1, whatever you want to do, however you want to do. We're just going to call it a 3-4-3, man. I'm losing it over here. But it's only a matter of time before that got exposed, and especially given all the factors we've discussed, man, it was a really, really ugly recipe for overall disastrous performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this exposed us on so many different levels, but I mean, we've talked about each and every podcast, and it's really our lack of offensive creativity and, putting some type of pressure on the final third of the defense. We had none of that. It was glaring. It was a little bit disappointing too, I'll be honest with you. I've been lobbying for Robbie to get one of those shots, in that number 9 striker position where Gonzalo typically plays for our club. And he had that opportunity when we traveled up to Toronto, and he really did not capitalize on that. And I got to say, it was one of the more disappointing showings of the season for me. I thought that that was a team, Toronto being one of the worst clubs in the league, that you can go in and you can rack up 1, potentially 2 goals and take home a brace back down to South Florida. That did not happen. And, with the idea of having some of the veteran players, get a little bit of rest, Blaze did not start on this game in Toronto, and Gonzalo did not even fly up to Toronto. Indiana did have a chance to prove what he's got, especially after that hell of a goal against Nashville last time around. But he was another disappointing one where I thought that they had some good opportunities and chances to perform, and they just didn't do so.
To be fair, Higuain did have a planned rest because he's old and not as fit as he once was. That did give Robbie the opportunity, and you're right. He kind of squandered it. I think a lot of people were asking for that, and it seemed like he, I don't know, maybe choked in the big lights or maybe it was off, but there were several just miscues from that. And you said it as well, is that we lack creativity. We really don't have enough creative players. And we really saw that. We're going back to that very stagnant, not getting open, not trying to alleviate pressure from anyone else. Obviously the high press was not working out either way. It seemed like nothing that we came with as far as strategies are concerned actually worked out.
And I think a big difference too that we saw in that winning streak, right? In that winning streak, we were seeing the ball push from the back line to the front attacking third immediately, right? We were seeing LGP hitting those lob passes to our wingers, to our striker that I think initiated our attack on more of a counter-attacking type of standpoint. And that's some stuff that we never see. And we hadn't seen before that, and we haven't seen it over the last few games. And, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but due to yellow card, we're not going to be able to see that for at least another week.
We're not. And we lost possession a ton. It was very, very frustrating. We keep on going, preferring down that left side, but we haven't had Gibbs in a while. So that Gibbs and Robbie connection is basically not there. You're basically experiencing some Shea to Robbie connections, and it's just not the same thing. We really have to get Gibbs back. But good news, he's coming back. We're going to get into that just a little bit later because there are many questions that are desired to be answered about this upcoming game against Nashville. But one of the biggest things that I saw that kind of annoyed me a little bit was we did mention the club did give 2 free tickets to the season ticket holders at the same time where they were hoping that everyone would, invite some friends to experience the game, experience the atmosphere. I mean, I get it, right? No good deed goes unpunished, Inter Miami. But what I did notice in the same breath was that there were a lot of, I've got 2 tickets for sale in the same sections that all these tickets are really dispersed for. So come on, guys, we need to do better. We're trying to help the club out and hype it up, not just pocket, $40 a ticket or whatever it is. But, maybe they're disgruntled with the season and trying to reclaim some of that money.
Yeah, there was a few instances of that. Well, you know what? Maybe what they were trying to do was sell their seats from the other side of the stadium and just try and buy 2 seats right next to them, right?
I did see some people trying to play the match, go fish, right? I've got 2 tickets here. Let's switch. Let's make this work. Let's get all 4 together. But I didn't see any successful stories of that happening. The other, big story of this game was Nico going off. And this is early. It's 38th minute. Gets a second yellow card. And you know what the bad thing about this is we're going to miss Nico for 2 games now. We're going to miss him because he got a red, which is automatic suspension for the following game, and yellow card accumulation. So that's the way it was worded in the press conference. We're looking at 2 games without Nico. But good news is we're not selling him, so chill out. We'll just have to make shift on this raft as we try and navigate the angry seas here. But very, again, disappointing. I don't want to. We're trying to stay positive here. Very disappointing. Nobody is really happy. But hey, I'll tell you what. Going back to that 24 hours, that was good because we had 9 wins and 9 losses. It was the first time we had an equal number. We've never had more wins than losses, but we've been rolling for the past year and a half with many more losses than wins. So we are getting back up to that 500 level, which is very nice. And to your point, we have a damn near identical win percentage, both away and at home.
Yeah, so I don't know how much home field advantage is really going to help us out, to be honest. And Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but not just Nico won't be in these next few games. For the next game, yes. I'm pretty sure we're missing LGP too.
So he also got a yellow, and he will be out on yellow card accumulation. So basically what's going to happen is tomorrow at 6:30 p.m., the club is having open tryouts for any aspiring center backs. There's no restrictions. It doesn't matter if you are super shredded and athletic or if you haven't been off the couch in a month. Hey, that COVID quarantine 15 is a real thing. Get out there and give it a shot.
You hear that? All of our Instagram listeners who always ask us when tryouts are, this is your shot. Tomorrow.
This is it.
Show up at the pitch. But Jay, you were talking a little bit about, some of these stats, man. And I got one that'll blow your mind, sir. This, not only was this the first time all year that the Red Bulls scored more than 2 goals in a game. Yes, that's right. The first time all year they've scored more than 2 goals in a game. This was also their second victory in 12 matches, and they led Inter Miami with a whopping 27-2 in total shots with 9-1 on target. Man, this was a bloodbath from start to finish.
It really was. I mean, almost from from the minute the whistle blew, I think we realized that we were in some trouble here. So I'm really glad that we can be the team to give them their first 4-goal game of the season.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
which is what they did last year, if I'm not mistaken, 4-1.
That was probably the last time that they got over 2 goals in a game. Yes, that is probably true. Now, this was a bad loss. This was a very bad loss, given that this is kind of one of those games, especially as we look ahead at our schedule, where we have Atlanta, we have Portland, we have the Revs, we have NYCFC coming up here, that you cannot drop these games. And especially as we kind of talk about these matches with other teams that are jockeying for playoff position, this is not a game that you want to lose. And I mean, as we look ahead to our schedule, and especially as we tackle this Nashville game, that's really the next one up on our calendar, it does not get pretty. And Jay, with Nashville being kind of our, guys kind of always in our ecosystem of Inter Miami, being that they were an expansion club the same year we're an expansion club, this game is always big.
Yeah, they're like our stepbrother that we don't like. It's literally like the movie Step Brothers. It's 2 expansion teams who both talk smack to each other because one has to be better than the other, because we can't accept just enjoying this MLS party together. And you look on I've seen some heated Twitter, heated Reddit exchanges. It is pretty funny. But yeah, the sad part is that they're a better team than we are. They have a better expansion team, should I say. Last year, it's no secret, they built their team from the back, a very dominant defensive team, but they really weren't a threatening offense, right? They have more than 10 draws in the past 2 seasons. Like, they draw out, but this year they figured out their attack, and they're becoming very, very lethal and putting up some numbers. So this is not going to be an easy feat at all, especially with the depleted roster that we currently have. We're going to have to really dig down deep, pull something out, maybe make some tactical adjustments. This is going to be a very difficult game, but it is a home game, so we can all get rowdy and hopefully party together. I mean, we're going to party win or loss. That just happens in Miami, but this will be a good home game. Go to this home game. Don't be afraid. This is the last home game until October 20th, so get it in while you can.
Yes, there's about a month break between our next match down here in Fort Lauderdale. This upcoming match against Nashville is this coming Wednesday. As Jay said, it is a home match at 7:30 against Nashville. So, like we said, it's going to be a tough one. And guess what? There's a little bit of bad blood, because last time we played them in Fort Lauderdale, we did win. And that, I believe, was that our first win against Nashville? I know we had tied them.
Yeah, that was the first one.
That was our first win. So that came.
And it felt good.
It felt amazing. And that was when we were, in one of our many different seats around that stadium. But no, that was the Indiana game, if you actually recall. That was one of the best moments, I think, in Inter Miami history thus far. And, since then, a lot has changed.
A lot has changed. But, and now we're kind of reverting back to how we were last season, the beginning of the season with that game. But regardless, staying positive, there is a lot to unwrap here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, since the last game, they've lost once, which actually shockingly came last weekend when we took our L against the Red Bulls. They actually took an L against Toronto 2-1. So very shocking there, because this has been one of the hottest clubs in the entire MLS, beating the teams of Atlanta, NYCFC, DC United, all these clubs, in the playoff fold. And to lose to Toronto is a little bit of a question mark. That's a team that we've handled pretty well over the course of this season. But, this is still a dynamite team. They are the 2nd seed in the East, 5th in the Supporters Shield race right now. And as Jay said, up until now, they had really been known about being a defensive club. People like Walker Zimmerman on the roster, who won the Defensive Player of the Year last year in the MLS. But this year's a little bit different. This year's been catapulted by their offense. They are the 6th highest scoring team in the MLS, and they are the 3rd highest assist totals in the league as well. So they distribute the ball and they score the ball when they have the opportunities. And to give you an idea, Inter Miami is 3rd to last. So we're talking about 2 teams totally on the different spectrums, although we were both expansion clubs last year.
You only need one goal to win, though.
You only do, but it's going to be tough against Nashville because Joe Willis is in goal, and this man leads the MLS with 10 clean sheets this year. And I mean, you got to look at, him and, Matt Turner as kind of two of probably the most, well put together goalies in the entire league.
You can't disagree with that, but there is something to consider that having an amazing back line does make you look a lot better as a keeper versus having a Swiss cheese back line.
Well, what are we going to have this week?
Buddy. So do we want to get into that? Okay. So it's going to be rough. I'm not going to lie. Now, there is there was that rumor about Ami Mabika. Potentially, he didn't play for Fort Lauderdale CF, potentially coming up. But Phil Neville did kill that rumor actually earlier today, saying that he does have a team of 16. But keep your hope up. We are going to have Mabika on the podcast sooner than later, hopefully. Very, very cool dude. Very nice, very humble. Very, very cool. But that does leave us in a problem. We are going to be without several players, and the vast majority are all on the defensive line. We're going to be without Shawcross, without Ventura, who has been injured basically since his acquisition from Liga MX, who I think we're very high up on and would love to see out there. He's still injured. Jovan Jones is still injured. Ian Frey is still injured. Fagal is on seemingly indefinite suspension. Leandro is going to be out for the next game. Leandro Gonzalez Perez. And Victor Ulloa is also out. We legit have about 13 to 14 outfield players, according to Phil. Now, you do have to factor in like Valencia and Azcona, who are on Fort Lauderdale, but signed to Inter Miami. So that's kind of where we're at with that 16 number. So it seems like the best options we have right now are Christian McCoon. Kieran Gibbs is back. Thank the Lord. We got Sammy Gadiri, Kelvin Leardam. We do have Morgan. We do have Shea, although they're not really defenders. They're more wing backs now. But there is also this weird caveat, and we'll see how this plays out over the next 2 days. It looks like we're not going to be able to really exercise this really strange clause in the MLS rulebook, but it is called the extreme hardship call-up clause. And clubs can add players to their roster in cases of extreme hardship. Extreme hardship exists when an MLS club has fewer than 16 outfield players available or has fewer than 2 goalkeepers available. A club may sign players on loan to short-term agreements up to 4-day contracts for the MLS League season games only in case of extreme hardship. So, tough break. We're not going to be able to get that. We are going to answer that with a few of the listener questions. But before we do, we must talk about the now attacking prowess of Nashville SC. And the players to really keep your eyes on are, number 1, CJ Sapong. I don't know how many goals he scored with his feet, but he scored a shit ton with his head. That dude is amazing at getting up and glancing balls, and he's got 10 goals on the season. The other one that we honestly, we're gonna have to admit it, but we do like is Randall Leal. He is just a baller on the wings and in the midfield there. 4 goals, 7 assists. Half of his goals come from outside the box. He is not afraid to let it rip. He has a neck tat and all the confidence in the world. We need more neck tats in Miami. Give us some swag. But their best player, bar none, is Hani Mukhtar. Some people call him the Messi of the MLS until Messi comes to Inter Miami. He's got 10 goals, 9 assists. He is 3rd in the league in assists. He did have a hat trick on this season. He can score from free kicks. He is a scary man, but I do love his celebration, just saluting the fans. So that's really who you need to key in. And of course, Alex's most hated player in the league, Mr. Dax McCarty. Not off talent, not because he beats us, simply because he does not like the positional arrangement of his face.
He is definitely the front runner for the Trout Award this year. There's no doubt Dax is winning that trophy. But Jay, I got to ask you, man, that's a rundown of Nashville. I got to ask you, but what would you say if I ask you to fill in this blank, right? Inter Miami wins if that's a blank.
If we stay mentally disciplined. And can I do 2? Will you allow it? And if you fight for the man on your left and the man on your right, God, please run around and get open to alleviate some pressure so we don't get pressed back to hell.
I like that. I had a little bit short of a blank on the script, but
It's
fine.
fair. I'll flip the same question on you then.
Inter Miami wins if they get 2 goals.
Okay, I thought you were going to say don't lose. But we'll take it. 2 goals against a stout defense, but we did it last time thanks to, we really are the added time kings of the MLS. How many added time goals do we have now? Like 5, 6?
I think we've won 3 in literally the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's been
maybe the final 2 minutes.
I'm talking about added time. I'm not even talking within regulation. It is crazy, but we do want to run through these questions from some of our listeners that they sent in. So here's, I mean, everyone that listens to the podcast, you know that we don't really take ourselves too seriously. We try and take the sport a little more serious for the fans, but you know how it goes. First one. Who will be the quickest Inter Miami player carded up since LGP and Nico are gone? What's your answer?
Wow. Conventional wisdom is telling me Gregory. However, I'm going to throw a wild card out there and say Lewis Morgan. I don't know why. I just feel like he's going to be revved up.
All right.
What about you?
My answer was going to be on Gregory, but I don't know. I guess I could see a situation where Robbie's frustrated and like just pushes someone over, but it's coming. I can tell you right now, we're not walking out of this game without a yellow, if not multiple.
We're talking about these neck taxes. Is Robbie the only one with the neck tat on our team?
But it's Robbie. We do like Robbie quite a bit, but that is a soft neck tat.
You don't like it?
Soft
little
neck
cursive
tat.
Right there.
Like, come on, man. It's like Justin Bieber. Like, I don't know, man. Do you need to get like a full on, like your Adam's apple needs to be tatted?
For those who do not know, which is everyone listening, Jay was Post Malone for Halloween 2 years ago. And if you want to see that picture, you DM us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Discord. Please ask the question, Jay, send me your Post Malone picture.
Dude, no lie. In one of our group chats with some ex-coworkers we had, that is literally the picture that they are trolling me with in here. So, you know what? I mean, hey, Post Malone's my son's favorite rapper. What can I say? Anyway, moving on. Next question, which I don't even know where I'm losing everything. Here we go. Who the hell will be playing defense this week? Well, we told you really who the available options are. If I had to try and string this together as is, we're talking 3 center backs right now. I'm going to go with Gibbs as the left center back, McCoon as the true center back, and then Leardam as the right center back, because I think Gibbs and Leardam, both being respective to the left, to the right, but playing more in the wings. I think they're going to come bring it home. And then I think we're going to see Shea on the left wing back position and Lewis Morgan on the right wing back position. The other option is Sammy Gadiri, but I think he probably comes on as a sub to alleviate someone who's dying because they're running around like a maniac trying to defend this team.
Yeah, I mean, last player to kind of throw in the mix. No, he's not playing on the back line, but it's Nick Marsman. He's got to have one hell of a game for us to win this. He's going to be dealing with shots all night, and it's going to depend on how well he blocks them. So,
or we could just have Big John McCarthy play as a center back.
Would he wear his hat out there?
Would he just still slap balls down even though he can't use his hands?
Sorry, you're no longer playing goalie.
Yeah. Oh, where? What? We will see. We will see. But yeah, my best guess going from left to right would be Shea, Gibbs, McCoon, Leardam, Morgan. Last question. How much does it suck to work on the pod after a performance like that?
Well, it's really not fun. It's not fun, but you know what? After a certain while, you just kind of get comfortable in the suck and you kind of just get used to it. When we win, we're pretty damn fired up.
I mean, must we remind the listeners that we did bang out about 50 episodes for our first season, which was many, many painful games. So we are very happy. We have some positive results this year. We do try and come in, and if it's been, if everyone's really feeling bad, we try to be quick with the coverage and be funny about it. Bring smiles, spread love and joy. That's what it's all about here on the Inter Miami podcast. What do we have after Nashville, buddy?
Yeah, some people just take this just too damn seriously, and sometimes you just got to hear something and bring a smile to your face because it ain't the performance we're putting on the pitch. But
let's talk traders.
And there's one trader that comes to mind, and that's Max Ramos, former president of the Siege until he moved to Atlanta for the Five Stripes and keeps sending us pictures
at their tailgates in their stadium being like, look, Atlanta United's got their own tent for their podcast. Well, I don't know. Come on, Inter. You're making me look bad over here. Give us a little tent for our live shows at the stadium.
Yeah, it's hilarious. We were talking through Max, and he just moved up to Atlanta, and we're all going to miss him down here in the Miami community. He's a great guy. And, he sends us a Snapchat or one of those Instagram messages and is like, hey, look where I am. And he's chopping it up in the supporters group of Atlanta. I'm like, dude, come on already, bro. Like, this is still fresh.
He didn't even wait, bro. He didn't even wait. I don't know if there's a trade-in policy for other jerseys at the Atlanta shop, but he didn't even. He just left us. No, it's all love with Max. We're just joking with him. He knows that. But the next game, Atlanta United, man, they are in a great form right now. They are scary.
Yeah, they are one of the hottest clubs in the entire league. And guess what? If there's a team that's going to rival them, it's the team that we're going to play after that. And that's the Portland Timbers. And we get to fly all the way to the West Coast to play this club. So they are playing out of their minds. And Jay, after that, we have the Red Bulls again, the Columbus Crew, Toronto, Cincy. What game over this next 7-game span and really kind of month period do you have circled and say, hey, this is a must win?
Oh, man, that's a lot of circles. I think out of respect, I really do respect the Timbers organization. Really like their atmosphere up there. That's going to be a very tough challenge. That's the one I really have circled. If we can get a positive result there, I think it sets a tone for the remaining games of the season. So that's certainly the one that I'm most excited about / most concerned about, but want to see the best result.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to seeing Eric Williamson out there playing great.
And Blanco is just shredding too.
The whole club is back, and that's what's really happened is that they were just injury infested over the first half of the season, and they really came to form, getting some of their players back from injury, U.S. men's national club, things like that. And
I don't want to hear that chainsaw rev too much.
No, not at all. But Jay, I also want to kind of bring to attention, we play Atlanta United twice in the next 9 matches, I believe. And we got to get that Red Bulls team back, man. That is just an ass whooping from start to beginning. So, sir, I have the Red Bulls circled.
Start to beginning?
Might as well. We never fully got out of there. So, start to the end. But also that Atlanta United team, I mean, that's going to test our character. And the first time we play them is actually in Atlanta. And as Max has so gracefully shared us so many videos over the last few weeks, that place is going nuts.
Yeah, it is very, very rowdy. But, speaking of playoffs, I think your overall sentiment, and we do want to share this clip of Phil Neville's, post-game interview, and just let us know what you think.
And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Clearly not Phil Neville, but we did want to throw that in there just for some laughs as we get into playoffs discussion, and of course after that bad defeat, the legendary Jim Mora himself. That was a request from Mr. Papa George.
Playoffs? Talking about playoffs. What an iconic soundbite that was. If you have an opportunity to play it, you got to take it.
I mean, it's glorious. And then it's led you down a rabbit hole of just frustrated coaches commenting on their team. So there's always enjoyment in that. But what does this playoff picture really look like, bud?
Yeah, this has been something exciting that we've had our eyes on over the last few weeks. This playoff picture in the MLS is starting to get really exciting here. And I mean, Inter Miami being in the middle of it has only added to that excitement. But, as we had last podcast, a little bit of a playoff picture, we wanted to bring everyone up to speed on what the current playoff standing looks like. And with that, we're going to start in the East. We're Eastern Conference guys, so we're going to start in the East. And this starts with the New England Revolution, and it really ends with the New England Revolution. They are absolutely crushing this season. They whooped our butts down here 5-0, and they have not stopped since. They are 10 points ahead of Kansas City in the Supporters Shield race. So KC actually on the other side is a part of the Western Conference, and they're 10 points ahead of them. It is absolutely crazy. And Jay, as we look at these teams, atop the Eastern Conference, we can kind of break these down into 4 clear tiers, and I'm curious to hear if you agree on this. Number one, really the only team in the tier 1 category is the New England Revolution. Number 2 in tier 2 are NYCFC, Orlando, and Nashville. And I think of those 3 clubs, I think Orlando's kind of that one team that's a little bit on the fringe and maybe dropping down to a tier 3 squad. They have not had a good couple of months, and their records do show for it. Right now, they are still in the 4th seed with 38 points, tied with NYCFC for the 3rd slot in the Eastern Conference, but they are in a little bit of a stumble themselves. And as we look at the next tier, tier 3, that really includes Atlanta, Philadelphia, and maybe Montreal. Montreal is kind of one of those teams that's on the fringe of 3 to 4, even though they did pull off a win this last weekend. But I'm really looking at Atlanta and Philly to kind of round out the playoff picture, where one other team is going to have to be invited to the dance, and that's where we exist. It's kind of that 4th tier of teams in the Eastern Conference. That includes Inter Miami, DC United, the Columbus Crew, and the Red Bulls. Those are kind of the 4 different tiers that I see the conference currently lining up, as a couple of these slots are going to be moving inside and out. But, Jay, what are your thoughts on these tiers? And is there a team in tier 4 of Inter Miami, DC, the Crew, and the Red Bulls that you think is going to volley and actually get a playoff seed?
So that's the most interesting tier, right? I mean, that's the one everyone's scrapping for, because the East is pretty tight. We're really, if we get a win here, we're right where we need to be back in the playoff hunt here. But as far as this, outside of Inter Miami, for obvious reasons, I think that DC is really coming on form now. I mean, Alo Camara just balling out, scoring goals, it seems like every single game. That would be I'd say the main competitor in tier 4 that we need to monitor, from week to week to really see, and that's what we need to match. That's not what we need to match. That's what we need to outpace. So we're going to have to play better than really certainly DC, but also the Crew and the Red Bulls, because anyone could win a few games and sneak above us.
Yeah, and the crazy part, too, is there's only 7 points separating the 11th seed and the 3rd seed, right? That's crazy, especially to play all the games that we have up until this point, and to only be separated by 7 points is just really exciting, too, at the end of the day. If we pull off some of these wins, if we beat Nashville this upcoming Wednesday, and if we beat Atlanta in Atlanta, things start to happen, right? Mm-hmm. You can take a loss or a tie against Portland, knowing that, you have a couple of these games against Cincinnati, Toronto coming up. But what we can't do is really drop game after game after game right now when games are at their utmost importance. Yeah. So that's really the important part.
We can't even really draw many games either. We need to maximize and get all 3 points. That's how you secure it. You look for the opponents to either lose or draw, and you get your 3 points and you start to climb. We really need to come out with results. We have to, if we really want to make this push.
And we look at it, it's kind of putting our fate in our hands to some capacity, right? This Atlanta team right now is sitting in the 6th seed with 36 points. That's a team that we have the opportunity to jump ahead of them just by off of beating them, right? And those are the games that are super important. And we cannot, I repeat, we cannot lose to these clubs who are lower than us in the playoff standings right now, because that is just literally shooting ourselves in the foot.
Could not agree more. Go ahead and give us a rundown of the West.
Well, as there's the East, there's got to be the West. And I mean, this one's a little bit different than the clutter that the East offers. The West is much more top heavy, with Kansas City, Seattle, and Colorado all kind of vying at the top of the rankings, all separated only by 2 points, which is pretty wild in itself. So there are a lot of close matches and close races as we kind of wrap up the regular season. We're entering Q4, not just in reality, but also in the season. So this is true crunch time from everybody. Actually saw a little bit of news come out of FC Dallas. They did sack their coach yesterday. So not doing it for Pepe Ricardo out there, but if there's no other reason to watch FC Dallas, it's to watch this young stud. Do keep an eye on that team, even though it does seem like FC Dallas is probably going to miss the playoffs. But, hey, as the good boy says, playoffs. We're talking about playoffs.
Well, Pepe's going to be part of the American soccer/football scene for years to come. And this is a absolute stud. He will be on the national team, and he'll be a household name for Americans, just as Pulisic, Reina, McKennie, Dest, Conrad, you name them. They go on and on.
Another player to, we were talking about it earlier this morning, another player to come through the homegrown system through FC Dallas kind of reminds you of Brendan Arison a little bit from the Philadelphia Union last year.
Talking about his younger brother, the other Aronson, who's really good as well.
You're right, actually.
Good job, parents. Good job,
Bravo.
Mr. and Mrs. Aronson.
Those are some genes that they're pumping in there.
Those are some genes and some work ethic.
Then look at us.
Hey, we're out here, baby.
No, but listen, looking at the West here, the real team that I'm excited about is, I've watched these and, gambled on these games, is really the San Jose Earthquake. They put up goals. Mm-hmm. They're always good for the over. Exciting team out of Northern California. And, right now they're sitting in the 10th seed. Again, they got to get up to the 7th, but that is a club that I would say keep an eye on. They're 4 points out of that final slot. And as we look at it a little bit more on a macro level, Real Salt Lake has just played extremely well over the last 5-6 matches to really inch themselves up to that 6th seed. If I did have a club that is on the outside looking in, though, I would say that is San Jose or LAFC. And I think that RSL club is going to be the one to drop out. I think Portland's on a roll. I think Minnesota's super tough. And one team has to go to slide in there. And I think LAFC has kind of had a rocky season. I think it's Carlos Vela who just got loaned out as well, so they is not on the club, but that is still a tough team, and we'll just have to see how this falls.
Rossi went to Fenerbahce.
Was it Rossi?
Yeah,
Rossi?
no, they're not getting rid of Vela.
I was gonna. Yeah. So it was Rossi who's out.
Rossi, sorry, not Rossi. Good pronunciation, buddy. All right, and then one more thing before we get out of here. Here's a little bit of a funny article that came from an Italian news outlet. So, it's probably more respectable than any of the British outlets like a Sun or whatever. They're literally just throw out anything, see if it sticks on the wall. But Gonzalo Higuain reveals he wants to take a sabbatical after the end of his contract with Inter Miami and claims the club wants to sign not Inter Messi. This club wants to sign Leo Messi. So I don't know I hope they have him quoted right. Take a sabbatical from the sport at the end of his contract and not just at the end of the season.
Well, we'll see. However, Gonzalo wants to play.
He loves saying stuff that just shoots him in the foot. Like it's he's better when he doesn't talk and he just trains and runs on a treadmill.
Clearly, his PR rep is just not doing a good job.
They're probably just like, oh my gosh, like
again,
probably just pouring up the liquor. Like this guy again. Tough. But hey, you know what? That's it, man. I mean, we've covered quite a bit, and thank you everyone for joining us. Been a little bit of a delay, but hey, we're back here in the flesh per usual. Get out there. Games on Wednesday, gonna be fun. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your pastors. I don't know. Whatever. Follow us on IG, FB, and Twitter. For Instagram and Facebook, it's at Inter Miami Podcast. For Twitter, it's at Inter MIA Podcast. Pink Smoke will be dropping. I think I just saw the Substack review from Mr. Than Heron. We were trying to get him on here, but he is coaching his son in 2 different soccer leagues. Who I can't spoil that. I'll let Than give that update. Very, very hardworking father and son, and starting to see some results. But as we end every single episode, Vamos Miami.
Vamos Miami.